What's up, YouTube? How's everybody doing this lovely morning? This is your boy Reg in the building. The album I'm about to review for you guys today is the Ohio Players with, I want to say this is their ninth studio album, Contradiction. This was released in 1976, 1 year after their magnum opus, Honey. It's been a long time, but I'm finally going to talk about this album. Just a little disclaimer. Originally, this was supposed to have been a double review between Contradiction and Angel, but Loki, I'm kind of low on time at the moment, and since I don't have the copy of Angel right now, and I already missed on having a copy of Fire when I did the review, I actually want to actually find a copy of Angel for me to do a review on. So yeah, this is Ohio Players Contradiction. In terms of their Mercury period, I want to say this is probably like their most tamest album cover, but let me see. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, y'all should know who the Ohio Players are and shit like that. I've already talked about the albums like Skin Tight, talked about Fire, talked about Climax, talked about which Climax was the what was it? The compilation album that Westbound put out, like just to allegedly spite them and shit like that. So just a little information for y'all. And of course, I talked about the legendary fucking Honey album and shit. So yeah. Alright, so after the release of Honey, and shit like that, 1976 will prove to be like a very busy year for the Ohio Players and shit like that. Um, that same year, after they dropped Contradiction, they dropped the compilation, the Gold album and shit like that. Which Gold was pretty much, like I said, pretty much like a compilation released at the height of the success of Honey and shit like that. And that has some new recording like Feel the Beat, Everybody Disco, and Only a Child Can Love. Which I want to talk about those after the end of this review and shit. So around this time, the Ohio Players were, funk at that time. Well, Black R&B at that time, disco was getting popular like in the late '70s and shit like that. And so, a lot of funk artists, they were, instead of like being popular within like the mainstream, most funk artists were still made popular within their black audiences and shit. And that's kind of what I felt what happened with the Ohio Players after the release of Honey, because with Honey being like this magnum opus and shit like that, this was actually their last. I want to say this was actually their last #1 album and shit like that too, and shit. And around that time too, I think between 1975, 1976, fucking Sugarfoot. And this was according in their unsung episode and shit like that. That Sugarfoot and Statch. I want to say Statch too. They were arrested for like drug possession and shit like that, because around that time too, Ohio Players were kind of getting into drugs and shit. I mean, they've been into drugs, but I think it was kind of reaching the peak by like late '70s and shit like that. So of course, the charges were dropped. The handle the charges were dropped, and this is the album Contradiction right here and shit. This is the album that came out. And also, around the time this album came out too, um, excuse me, I'm so sorry about that. I just had a little something stuck in my throat. But yeah, around the time too and shit like that, it was not as ballad. Excuse me. It was not as like ballad heavy or as like jazz heavy as quote unquote Honey and shit, because with Contradiction they kind of went for like a more harder funk sound and shit like that, which I fucking love and shit, you know what I'm saying? So, and album came out with, I want to say, two singles albums came out with, which was Hoochie Coo and Far East Mississippi. So, alright, so yeah, let me show y'all. This is the album cover right here. Got the fucking Ohio Players Fascination with like sexy Nubian queens and shit like that, you know, on some erotic position. Yeah, I bought this from my record store and shit like that. So, yeah, that's why it's all fucked up and shit, because, you know, the motherfucker wanted to tape it. But yeah, if y'all can see it, you know, got the fucking naked chick right here and the fucking horse and shit. All this time, I thought it was like a fur coat she was wearing, like, just looking at this album and shit, but, you know, right here, you got the members right here, you know, you got Sugarfoot, got Billy Beck, got fucking Peewee right here, you got the man himself, Mr. Satch, you got Diamond, Merv, and fucking Jones and shit. The lyrics in the background, y'all should know. Y'all should know. And this is the vinyl record Contradiction. Alright. 9 songs. Let's get started. Track number 1, Contradiction. Oh man, this is a fucking dope track right here. Possibly my favorite song off this album. And you know, like I mentioned before, rarely the Ohio players would like to make would make basically a lot of like improvise, like a lot of their songs, and a lot of their songs don't really have a lot of subject matter, like regarding the composition. However, when it comes to contradiction and shit like that, they're basically one thing I got from Contradiction was talking about how a lot of life and love and shit like that, like people will always say, "Oh, well, there's like a lot of fish in the sea," or some shit like that, or they'll be so quick to believe everything that they hear, and they don't really examine like how contradiction it can make to society and shit like that. Just paraphrasing pretty much, and that's one thing I have to say about Contradiction. I love the vocals on this track, the breakdown. Ah man, this whole track, one of the most underrated Ohio player songs, period and shit. The next song that's playing in the background, Precious Love. Um, fucking Satch killed it with those horns and shit like that. Man, like it just had like that vintage Ohio players vibe and stuff like that. Precious Love. Um, very dope ballad. Then track number 3, um, Little Lady Maria. Um, this track is okay. This track is okay and shit like that. Not one of my favorites on this album, but it's still a pretty solid track. All of my Puff Daddy fans should know about this track because he sampled this joint. I'm not gonna tell you the sample; y'all have to find it yourselves. And I feel sorry if you guys want to listen to a Puff Daddy song, but next track, Far East Mississippi. This was another single from this album and shit like that. Very dope track right here. Very dope. It's something very unique for the Ohio players because it has a somewhat blues rocks feel to it, but at the same time too, it still has that funky sound with the Ohio players best known for and shit. So very dope track, Far East Mississippi. Um, Next track we got is what's the next track? Who She Cool. Now, yeah, this is pretty much the most famous song off this album and shit. And believe it or not, this is actually the last #1 song in the Ohio players has ever had. Yeah, Who She Cool, nice little party track and shit like that. Yeah, man, like, cause Who She Cool, like very funky track right there and shit like that. I love the trumpets on that track. You know, that's like one of those few songs where everything just comes together. Um, excuse me. Oh, and another thing about Who She Cool, all of my Penthouse Players Click songs should know. All my Penthouse Players Click fans should know about that track. Just to let y'all know. Track number 6, My Life. Um, very dope synthesizers. Very dope synthesizers on that track. I want to say that was done by a lot by Bill Beck and shit like that. And that's another interesting thing I want to also talk about when I talk about the Angel album, because they definitely use synthesizer as a prominent usage. But I'm gonna save my opinions when I come to that album and shit. But I'm gonna slightly mention it here. Track number 7, Tell the Truth. I kind of saw it more like a continuation of Contradiction. It's alright. Track number 8, My Ladies Run Me Crazy. Very funky track right here. Just pretty much a braggadocio kind of Ohio Players track and shit. And the last song off this album by Centennial. Um, yeah, just giving props, because around that time in 1976, it was the bicentennial, which it was like the 200th anniversary of America's formation and shit like that. And so everyone was in that bicentennial craze around that time too, and basically the Ohio Play want to use that as a way, to everyone to come together and to unify with one another. All right, and that's all of what I got for this album. My opinion on Contradiction. I feel like this album is probably the Ohio Players' most underrated, if you ask me. Cause a lot of people always want to focus on Skin Tight, Fire, Honey, but anything after Honey, when it comes to Ohio Players fans, they just want to be like, yeah, we're just gonna put this shit to the side. But with this album right here, they really kind of went back a little bit with their Westbound sound, but a lot more polished, but at the same time not too polished, if that makes sense. Yeah, this album is a contradiction, but yeah, very dope album and shit. Like I said, I feel like it's very underrated when it comes to Ohio Players fan base and shit. Like, don't just always focus on Honey. Don't always focus on Honey and Skin Tight. There's more to Ohio Players than meets the eye. They're more than putting sexy females on their album covers and shit like that. The Ohio Player was definitely one of the most influential and groundbreaking funk bands in period and shit like that. And with that being said, oh shit. With that being said and shit, this album is actually out of print. If I'm not mistaken, it's actually out of print. Or if you can find it, but it might be too hard to come by. So if y'all can see this album in stores or anywhere, must have in your collection. This is Ohio Plays with Contradiction, 1976. And that's all the time I have for this review. Make sure y'all click that subscribe button and like this video and share it among your friends and stuff like that. Peace.